Hi, welcome to Spiritual Principles Made Practical. I'm your host, Scott Friedman, and today is our lucky day because we have Leslie Juvin-Acker. I hope I didn't beat it up too badly.
It's okay. It's okay, Scott. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great. Leslie has been an executive coach for 14 years. She's written 6 books, 2 fiction, 4 nonfiction, and has just all kinds of expertise and insights that we're excited to hear about. And for me, and I'm sure my audience, we'd really like to know about how to make a living doing what we're really inspired to do, because it seems to be such a challenge. So could you start us out with some insights on that?
And it pays to be you. That's what I say to everyone. And I've written 2 books on that subject. One's mostly on emotional intelligence and how I was able to capitalize on my experience and passion in the action sports industry from a teenager well into the end of my career as an executive coach until I retired, working with people in the action sports industry, because it's a industry for rebels and people with tattoos, all the way and everywhere. I mean, I remember the recruiter for Oakley for a long time, the head HR guy. I mean, full body tattoos. And a lot of people think, oh, you can't make it because you have tattoos. Well, that's not true. So, what I liked about coaching in the action sports industry specifically was there's a lot of things that we think are true about success that are not true. And the action sports industry, and even the adult industry, dare I say, shows us that there's a lot of things that we believe that are false about the meaning of success. And we're always challenging ourselves to revision and to reevaluate what we assume is true about success. And that's what I learned about coaching in the action sports industry. And then I also built, through all my years of coaching, what I call the 4 C's of career development, which is consciousness, creativity, confidence, and connectivity. Because if you can build these aspects of yourself, your consciousness, your awareness, what am I good at? What do I have to offer? What do I love? What's meaningful to me? What are my values? If you can build your confidence, your self-esteem, and believe in yourself, if you can become more creative and start working with your imagination and playing with life, and then you start to connect with other people who see that in you, who see your inherent value, who see what makes you unique, and who see your passion and want to work with you, because that's so, so, so important. So that's my deep dive already into the evolution of your own career. But furthermore, it's about how you see and understand yourself and your own potential. And that is the greatest psychological journey.
Well, and to me, I think that maybe the toughest part is believing in ourselves. And so for people that have this vision, but they say, it's too good to be true. What do you say to those people?
You know what? It's very simple. And this is all my years of coaching and also personal experience. What you feel is impossible, that means something that's not reality, that cannot come true, that exists outside of you, that perhaps you feel exists as a result of somebody else's permission or collaboration or help, and you can't get that. That's what I say is impossible. But no, what your dreams, if you can see it on the inside of your mind, they are inherent in you, and they are demanding to be born through you. And that is the question of, do I believe in my dreams? And this really interesting thing that Neville Goddard said is that, all divine ideas are seeking human parentage, meaning that our dreams and visions and capacities are seeking a person who is open enough to be a vessel by which that dream can come true. And you can see that with NASA, you can see it with technology, you can see it with electric cars, you can see it with fashion and innovative, technologies. You can see it in art. Great ideas are seeking to be born, but will we give them life? And are we willing to be open enough to be the vessel by which an amazing idea could be born? And that's the exciting part, because there's great ideas waiting to be born every day, just waiting for someone to be open enough to say, yes, I will commit myself to this dream. So And when you say impossible, I say inherent. It's in you and it wants to come out.
And so then the question is, okay, and so going along with that, I totally agree. How do I get it out?
And that's the thing about imagination. That's the one thing I love teaching about, whether it's teaching people how to write or teaching people how to, follow through with this vision or this dream that they have inside of them. It's your imagination. It's what you can see when your eyes are closed. And the greatest thing I always want people to remember when it comes to imagination is that, of course, you're going to have people say, I don't see it. It doesn't make sense to me. It's not real. It's not possible. Of course, because they're not in your mind. They're not in your imagination. Only you are. And of course, you feel like it's like that biblical story of Noah and the ark and the rain, and he's saying it's going to rain and no one's seeing it, but he sees it in his mind. That's metaphor. That's thematic. That's not literal. Good luck if they actually find an ark, but it's the story of an individual who sees something in the fourth dimensional realm, in the creative realm, and it's coming, and you're preparing to receive that. And when you are living in imagination and you have something, everybody has something in their imagination and their heart that wants to come out. But it's that commitment to that faith to that says, okay, I'm going to trust it, and I'm going to act as if this is real and it's going to happen and that it's materializing itself in my world, even though the world denies what I see, even though there's naysayers, that the people I love the most are probably the least to believe in me. And that takes self-discipline and belief in yourself and commitment to that and trial and error and not letting it kind of fall and slip away. But that demands the most of yourself. So this process of working with your imagination and living your dream and allowing this dream to be born through you is this process of you becoming the fullest version of yourself. You're becoming a braver, bolder, more courageous version of yourself. And that's the journey. The journey is always complete and total self-realization, but more importantly, the emergence of your true self. And that's wild, to be able to meet yourself, the fullest version of yourself, and going, wow, there's more in me that I'm capable of doing. Wow. And that's the exciting journey, but it's scary. Of course it's scary. And that's why smart people who are brave enough, like you, are asking people, complete strangers, for help and for insight, and why people hire coaches, why people work with teachers, because there are people who understand what I'm saying on an inherent intuitive level and want to help you birth your dream as if they are midwives. And I'm not the only one. There are millions of people out there everywhere in the world who are there to support you. So don't feel that you're alone, is what I'm saying with that.
One of the things that I've noticed is that every time that I have a quote unquote failed attempt, that my resolve and my confidence gets stronger every time I pick myself up to try again in a new way.
Yes.
Yes. And I've used that a lot to shorten the cycle time between an attempt where things really didn't work out, but I learned something from it, and till I sort of picked myself up again to try and was open to inspiration of how I could try again in a better way.
Right. I think, I have this little project that I have called Law School for Visual Learners. And I noticed when I was in law school that law school is not made for neurodivergent people. It's very elitist, and it's obviously very white, male dominated, and somebody who's not white and male and also neurodivergent. I was like, wow, this is not made for people like me. Let me create something in my own way that helps me learn the law. And through my process of trial and error, I realized that when we are committed to this process of hitting our goal, aligning with our goal, we are like heat-seeking missiles. And what heat-seeking missiles do is that they autocorrect. So when they catch themselves going off course, they're realigning until you finally hit your target. And so I always encourage students, and I encourage everybody, when you feel like you've made an error, the opposite of that is alignment. So if I make an error, I align, error, align, error, align. But it's important, though, to not delude yourself and to always recognize when you are making an error. So that feeling of, oh, I've made a mistake is, oh, that's an opportunity to correct my thinking. It's an opportunity to correct my feeling. It's an opportunity to put my vision back into my mind's eye and recorrect my pathway. So I think, vision is important when you're dealing with mistakes, because if you have a mistake, oh boy, is it easy to just get into this like tunnel vision of I made a mistake and I'm living in the past and I'll look at all the horrible things about me and everybody else, and it cycles and it cycles. That's easy to get stuck there in our mistakes. But if you're a little bit more discerning, you can go, oh, a mistake, bring my vision back in, realign, realign, realign. Don't get stuck there. Put it in the past and keep moving forward. Then you notice that mistakes are merely this realignment mechanism rather than a stumbling block. It can be a stepping stone.
Yeah, I've had, obviously at my age, I've tried a lot of things. And one of the things that I've kind of come to realize is that I don't want to take on anything that I'm not committed enough to pick myself up after any number of mistakes. So it's like my concept is that if I can't say to myself, I'd rather succeed at this, or I'd rather fail at this than succeed at anything else, I'm that committed, I'm going to do this or die trying, then that's the criteria that something has to have for me to get involved in it, because I don't know how many trial and errors there are going to be in between where I am and getting this all figured out and making it happen.
Right. I think in that process, the psychological process of that is, I think sometimes we get so caught up in action, like what can I do? And the biggest and the singular question I've always heard in all the years, and I still do, even though I'm retired, people come over and sit across me with coffee and I make them, or a tea, and they always go, okay, here are my visions and this and that. And, I always give the tips and the platitudes. I've said these things 1,000 times, but they're not just platitudes and they're empty. For me, they're real. And I learn from experience. But the biggest question people always go, okay, Leslie, well, how? And so people get caught up in kind of this, what I call it, the futile exercise of arranging externalities. You're trying to control and you're trying to make things work. And the danger of that is that if you're not taking inspired action, odds are it's going to blow up in your face, because we try to control, we try to manipulate, we try to work hard until we're exhausted, and we pay the price for that. So it's better to just hang back and just stay aligned with your vision and do different techniques. Silva method is a great method. Visualization, whatever methods that you like to use in terms of getting to the psychological state of like, I'm in flow and I'm in alignment, do that. But I would recommend against trying to hustle and work really hard and push and burn out. Like that's not sustainable, and it never ever works in all my years of coaching. So until you feel that you're taking an inspired action, I would say refrain and really reorient yourself to your vision, and take some time to really go, well, what am I doing this for? What's the purpose of this? What are my goals with this? And always start asking yourself some questions, because if you don't know what to do, you're not ready to do it. That's it. So it's important for you to step back and say, well, what am I doing this for? And ask yourself some important questions to reevaluate your own motivation.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And the best things that have happened to me have been when I've just been out enjoying myself with something that had nothing to do with this great event that occurred in my life, right? I was just enjoying myself doing something else and it showed up.
Right, because you're in love. You're in love. You're acting in love. When you're in fear and when you're in stress, when you're in anxiety, when you're frustrated, nothing's going to happen. Good things can't happen. I talk about that in Engineering Your Mood. Good things can't happen when you're in these psychological states. It's incongruent. So in order for you to access whatever it is that you want, you have to be in a congruent mood. That's the law of attraction. So to monitor your moods and your habitual psychological home or your state, That's the job. It's not making things happen, because when you're in the appropriate mood and you're in the flow of that psychological state of joy and love and happiness and that general sense of oneness with yourself and the universe and everybody else, of course it's going to flow, because that's love. That's where everything, all the possibilities are. But when you're in lack, when you're in frustration, when you're in anxiety, when you're afraid, you honestly think in those states of mind that something's going to save you? No, because like begets like. You will beget more anxiety, more stress, more fear, more worry. You have to learn to take control of your moods, your psychological states, and that is really truly the work. It happens as a function of that
Right.
that new mood and psychological state.
Right. That's the cause, and everything else is an effect.
Bingo.
Yeah. In my coaching, I do a lot of work with people about, ferreting out the causes of things. And if if you're only treating the effects, the causes will continue to show up.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's the futile exercise of arranging externalities, and you're never going to get it. And that's the fun part about life. And I've had my own realization too. If you've ever tried to do something and you feel like people fail you and they're not helping you and they're not supporting you, and you're going, wow, geez, like no one's out there, no one's supporting me. And it's a miserable, pitiful place to be. But the beauty of that is, if no one can help you succeed, then no one can hinder you from success. And that's the beauty of it. And when we get caught up in this experience, this feeling, this state of, oh, I always say to people, because I always feel so magical, but the rare times I say, I have never felt more human. And I mean that in the sense of limited and like powerless and confined. And the opposite of that is that I'm the creator. I'm the creator of my life. I'm the creator of my experiences. I'm the creator of my mood. I'm creator of the images I see in my mind. But that takes an immense level of personal responsibility. There is no passing the buck. And so you have this thing, it's like, oh, we're human. We're incarnated into this human form, and we've taken the most limited thing that we could do. And so we've become man so we can become God, and that's that amazing truth, is that we've limited ourselves so we can expand and emerge out of it. But that means, I have to take personal responsibility for every experience I have in my life. And I have to go back and I have to change all my memories and attitudes about my experiences. And that means being an adult about it. And that could be hard, because a lot of people don't want to accept that personal responsibility.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the only way forward, though. So if you're gonna, nothing else is gonna happen, so you might as well. So you've done all this great stuff, and where are you now? And what inspires you now? And where are you? I mean, from the looks of you, you've got long life ahead of you.
I love that. Thank you so much. I have to say, it's Asian genes and exercise and water, prayer, and meditation, I always say. But so I was an executive coach for 14 years, and I had so much fun helping people. I think that's the greatest thing, is like, what a track record to be able to say I've helped so many people, and I've learned so much from them. Gosh, from investing to real estate to pharmaceuticals, I mean, everything. I mean, they were my greatest teachers, honestly. But the joy was helping people to succeed and overcome. And then I retired from that because it was just time, and I went to law school. I'm about to finish my 4th and final year next month. And so for all of law school, I go, what am I doing here? Because I couldn't see myself in a law firm. Couldn't see myself clerking. I just couldn't see it. It wasn't there. I was a little bit alarmed because I had signed up for this 4-year journey and couldn't figure out what the heck am I doing with this. And while I was in law school, like I said, I had this problem with like the information. And so I started law school for visual learners, and I did quite well with that blog and selling my outlines to people. And I said, wow, that's really fun. And then during all 4 years of law school, I had published all these books. And I was like, oh, wow, maybe I'll just transition into publishing and take all my expertise and put them into books. So I did that. And then I wrote a book of short stories, which are like spiritual stories with spiritual themes. And that was really fun. And then I wrote a romance novel, which is actually, I didn't do any advertising, and it's already on the bestsellers list in the US,
Wow.
which is crazy in the first 2 weeks. So I feel like, okay, I guess that's what I'm supposed to be doing now, is telling beautiful stories, but inspiring people, use their imagination and build off of everything you have, because everybody has a story. Everybody has skills. Everybody has something amazing and unique to themselves, which is incredible about this universe, that 8 billion people on this planet, and everybody has something unique about themselves to offer. That's what I wanted to do. So I publish books, and I'm going to be doing law school for visual learners as a part of my company, Leslie Inc., and helping law school students. And I'd love to teach writing and law, and I just love helping people. That's really the fundamental basis of my work. And whatever it is that I do within that realm, okay, that's play.
So you're just really, you really got this be in the flow thing down.
Yeah, I would say, I think I've been there where I was 20 years old, 23 years old. I started my career when I was 23 as a coach in 2008, when everybody was broke and 1 in 4 people were losing their homes in South Florida. And my husband and I were newly married, and we had no money. We had nothing but debt. And I've been there where I would go to thrift stores, and I would find books, and I would resell them, like rare first editions and things. And my husband would park cars at valet, and you try to make things meet, and you're living off your wits, and you're living off your labor, and you're living off your relationships and people's goodwill, and you start to build. But I think that that's natural part of the career development. I think that that's natural because you're starting to work with what you have and build relationships. I call it the terrible 20s. It's terrible, terrible 20s to the thriving 30s, I say, and flourishing 40s and beyond. But I know what it feels like to feel all those feelings of, I have no money, I'm alone, I'm in debt. I know all of that, but the only way to escape that is to start developing the feelings of, okay, I'm wealthy, I manage my money well, and that requires disciplining your attention on what you want, knowing exactly what you want and turning your attention to that and saying, I'm going to create that, I'm going to go for that and nothing else. But that means, not going out and binge drinking all the time, and not just lazing about watching TV all the time, and not, partying all the day long. No, I spent it working. I spent it helping people. I spent it interning. I spent it doing things, learning, taking in and absorbing until I've absorbed enough that finally I have something to give. And that's the whole point. People are giving and giving and giving, and take it, because that's mercy and that's grace. Take what people are willing to give you, because it's everywhere. God, it's so amazing about life that there's so much people who have love to give. Take all that love and do something with it. And when you've got enough of it, give it back. And then you feel that flow of love. And that's all it is a flow of love and wisdom and truth. And it's an amazing thing.
Wow.
I know. I always get this way. If you ever see any other videos of me, I get like crazy excited, because that truth of love, it's the most redeeming thing in the whole world. Good ideas, love, truth, these are the things that save us. It really is, from the darkest and pits of despair. And I know what that feels like, to be so depressed that you contemplate suicide. I get it. But the only redemption you have is a choice. What am I going to choose? Am I going to choose life, or am I going to choose death? But it's totally up to us. And that's the amazing thing.
Yeah, I think that, the grasping of the fact that it's all within our control is kind of critical, in the sense that, if once I say it's all within my control, then it makes more sense for me to act.
Yeah, this is good. It's hard, because I've coached so many people, and I get text messages. I get text messages last night from people, desperate, and they feel, oh, I got one yesterday night from somebody who says, when work is slow, I get stressed. And the truth is, your feelings are not telling you what is. They're telling you what you assume is true. And once you realize that you can change your assumptions, then the events will start to reorganize themselves around you. So it's like, if things are slow, and you feel stressed, it's this external circumstances affect my mood. That's a dangerous place to be. And Warren Buffett, one of the greatest asset allocators in history, said you got to learn to not do that to react to external things. You have to learn to steady yourself. You learn to discipline yourself. But that means managing your moods. And you see it everywhere. You see people cannot control their emotional state. I mean, they'll fly off the handle if they see a dog running off a leash, God forbid. So the question is am I somebody who constantly reacts to the events around me? Or do I base my decisions and my actions on the mood that I've decided for myself? And who am I going to be and what am I going to be? And that takes a lot of self-discipline and maturity, but it takes time. It takes time to cultivate these things and to not lose hope in yourself and your capacity to grow.
Yeah. Oh my, I'm at a loss as to like what to say. I'm just taking it in.
Take it in, feel it. I mean, I've been doing this for such a long time, and I work with people, even though I'm retired. Retired means I just don't take money for what I do. Really, I still do it, but I just don't take money for it because I feel like I don't need it. I don't need people's money for me to do this. For me, this is fun. But I feel like when people get into my little field, it's like I want to pump you full of energy and then see what you do with it.
Well, I have a pretty big dream, and I've had it for a long time, and I've been working on it, and I've written books about it, and it's about connecting with world leaders to help them experience their wholeness and have that understanding reflected in their leadership. And I wrote a book called The Dynamics of Global Leadership about that, and I'm doing speeches about it in my local Toastmasters group. And it's interesting to me because I know that I'm only letting myself progress at a certain rate. And I'm watching the degree and the rate at which I'm allowing myself to unfold in this process. And it's just it's fascinating, and there's so much to learn about myself in this process.
Yeah.
And part of me thinks that it's not safe to do this. Don't do it. It's not safe. And so I'm going like, okay. And one of the things that I've realized in my own growth and over 40 years of meditation is that acceptance is healing. And so the more that I can accept that voice is there, the more freedom I have to act independent of it.
Right.
And the less power it has.
Right.
And I'm just kind of watching all of that resistance, if you will, melt away by me just accepting that it's there. And as I become more conscious of it, my ability to choose whether or not I act on that is greater.
Right.
So, oh yeah, there's this part of me that's afraid, but I've had part of me that's afraid forever, and I just keep trucking because early on in my life I realized that if I was going to be ruled by fear, I wasn't going to have a life. So I made a decision that I could accept fear and do it anyway. And I had this great experience one time. I was backpacking with my brother, and we were coming up on the top of this pass, and it was up in the Sierra, so oxygen was rare. And every step I took forward, I slid back in the loose gravel, so I wasn't making any headway. And I was starting to panic. And my brother said, my brother says to me, he says, are you going to be able to make it? And I said, well, I'm afraid, but I'm going to make it. And as soon as I said I was afraid, but I'm going to make it, bam, I was on top of the pass. And it showed me that just by acknowledging that, it released the energy for me to be able to accomplish it.
Absolutely.
And so I learned in a very sort of, visceral way out on the backpacking trail that there was a great deal of strength to be had by accepting that negative emotions exist, and that by accepting their existence and that I'm creating them, it gives me the opportunity not to be ruled by them and not to be drained by them.
Right. It says endless, there are endless states of consciousness. I wrote an engineering you made. I think there were like over 300. I've got probably 600 moods cataloged, and they're opposites. And I teach children. One of my funnest things to do is teaching my own children, but volunteer. I teach other children, emotional intelligence. And I've posted a video on my Instagram about telling little kids like negative emotions, or I call them undesirable emotions, because who really wants them? They're just here to tell you something, and they're here to show you something, and that's it. And if you can recognize that it's just information, it's all it is. It's information. It's not a power external to yourself. It's just information, which is two different things. Then you can start to work with that, and children get it. Children get it right away. But when you hear this, you say the part of myself, and I write about that in Engineering Your Mood. It's this concept of the self. It's the ego. It's the little I. And the little I says, and we hear it. He says, I can't do it, or no one's going to help me, or whatever. That's the human part of ourselves. And then the big I, which is your awareness, your power, and your presence. And I describe that in greater length in Engineering Your Mood. That is the source, is the origin, and it's connected to the entire universe. It's the origin of all ideas, the origin of all truth, the origin of all capacities, wisdom. And that part of us is the true part of us. And so we're constantly battling between this identity of the little I. Am I this? Am I this finite little speck of dust in the universe? Or am I the universe? And so our awareness is battling in between. It's going in between the two of them, because when our awareness goes from this little I, and it's feeling the limits of this humanness, and then it's moving back into this greater presence, and it's feeling this oneness and this unity and this wholeness and this love and this health and this vitality. And that's our home. That is our true home. And so our awareness is our function. It's really this individual self, and it's trying to always find its way home. That's the whole concept of like going back to heaven, is like really finding your way home. And your way home is this true essence of where you are, your true place, your true identity. And when we're operating from that place, of course, he said, but I am. You see that? How biblical is that? But I am going to make it. The little I is afraid, but I'm going to make it. And of course it is, because it's the greater thing. And when you realize eventually that the ego is not even real, it's a figment of your imagination. That's the hilarious realization. But it's a very personal experience to realize that your ego is just a figment of your imagination, that your identity is just completely and totally made up by assumptions. And you can change your assumptions about yourself. That not just merely making affirmations and saying, I'm beautiful and I'm successful and I'm wealthy, but feeling it, knowing it to be true, that is really your natural essence, your true presence, your true identity, and finally affirming it, which is to say it is true. Then you're really speaking the truth, and then the world is creating itself according to your word. It never returns to you void. So that's like hyper metaphysical stuff that I'm saying. But your identity, that person that when you close your eyes and you look in the mirror, who you see is what you've created. And that's the wildest thing. So when you can close your eyes and say, instead of maybe, I lost 26 pounds this past year. And so I did that by closing my eyes and going, okay, I don't have the mother's body anymore. I'm no longer having children. I had to accept that. So I had to realize that the body that I had was no longer needed. So I didn't need to carry that weight anymore. I wasn't going to have any more children. So I had to spend a few days grieving that's gone and it's over. So I closed my eyes and said, okay, well, what new body would I like? And so I closed my eyes and I said, well, I love cheerleading. My favorite athletes, they dance, they cheer, they make people feel great. They're athletic. You know what I mean? They have great bodies. So that's what I like to be in life, as a cheerleader. So I'm going to close my eyes and pretend I'm a Jacksonville Jaguar cheerleader or a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. And that's the body I'm going to give myself. And boy, oh boy, I implanted that. I assume that to be my identity every day, 40 minutes a day, doing my exercise, eating right, getting my, sleep and water in check. And I lost that 26 pounds. I got the six pack and all the things, but because I realized I can create the body that I want. But that's the journey. That's the realization that we can do it. And that's the coolest and scariest thing.
So what is it you want to create now?
I have visions for more stories, telling my stories with La Liberación, which is this romance novel that I wrote. It was a story that, like I wrote in the book, I said, all divine ideas, seek human parentage. And it was something that had flashed in my mind. And I had seen the whole story play out in my mind. And I was in law school, and I wrote a few chapters and I put it aside, and, you know, I had to do all the schoolwork and writing theses papers upon theses papers and publishing my other stuff. And finally I said, you know, I'm going to do this. And I kept seeing it, and I'd write a chapter, a new scene would come in, and just close my eyes and I would narrate what I saw. And it would come, and I'd finish a chapter, and the next scene would come, and the book had written itself. I'd never even had to think of, how am I going to resolve this? What am I going to do about that? It was already done. And so I feel like, okay, I think something to be coming out, and hopefully maybe make a movie from it, maybe, you know, plays, I don't know, but I'm open to whatever these ideas have, because it's not just me. Somebody needs this. Somebody's calling it forth too, whether it's a director or an actor or a reader or whoever. Somebody's calling forth. I'm responding to that. I'm just making myself available for whatever it is in the universe, in this world, that somebody's needing. And that's the coolest thing. It's like electricity. You think Thomas Edison was the only person who needed electricity? No, the whole world needed it. He allowed himself to be a channel for that. Cars, the same thing, refrigerators, whatever. So that's the cool thing, is that I'm just making myself available for whatever wants to come forward, whatever the world needs, whatever will make the world a bigger place. I'm just going to make myself available for that. And I know a function of that is whatever great value that I allow myself to flow through me, of course it's going to come back, because I get to experience it. I get to experience the wealth from all of that. You know, people buying my books. I didn't advertise, and people are buying them. I don't know who's buying them, but they need it. They want it. And I could not have foreseen that alone, but I had to go through this process of feeling. And it goes back to It Pays to Be You. The theme of what you're saying today is that you have to close your eyes and you have to feel that there are people who are calling forth whatever it is you have to offer. And you're allowing yourself to be available to them, to you. Like, I didn't know you were going to come, but I could feel you. I could feel you in the expanse of the universe. I couldn't see you with my eyes, but I knew that you were there. And I always imagine, and I always say to my husband, and I always say in interviews, isn't it exciting to know that you have friends and people who love you haven't even met yet, but you can feel them first? And that's the coolest thing. So my thing is more stories, more connection, more, I want to touch and feel and love and be with the people who resonate with what I have to offer, and other people who are not at that resonation. You know, hopefully one day we can level out and meet, but whoever's ready for me, I'm ready for you. That's all I can say.
I like it. I love it. I love it. It's great. It's great. I mean, and it's such an an inspiring example of being in the flow and trusting that and having it all work.
It is, but it is effort. It's an internal and psychological effort. I don't think it's like, I don't think that it's like, I always tell people you can't get something for nothing. If you want wealth, you have to be a vessel for wealth. If you want a loving marriage, then you have to be a loving wife or a husband or partner. You cannot get without giving. You have to give it first. You have to be it first. You have to express it first. You have to emanate it first, because life is a mirror. Life is just a mirror. And one of my favorite poems is, life is a mirror for king and slave, 'tis what you say and do. So give to life the best you got, and the best will come back to you. And that was written by a woman. And it's so true that if whatever you want to see in the screen of space, which is life, you have to give it first, because life's the mirror. So if you don't see wealth, then you're not given wealth. If you know, and the thing is that I've worked with extremely wealthy people, some of the wealthiest people in America and in the world. And you wouldn't believe, some people are so damn cheap. I mean, I've had somebody with $20 million mansion say to me, you know, I got a lot of money, but I sure do feel poor. Those are not my words. It's their words. You feel poor. So you might have it on the outside. So physical wealth, a house, is not the definition of wealth. So then what is? That's the question. So then we get to experience that by asking, well, what is wealth? And through that question, we explore it and we start to truly understand. I know what wealth is: peace of mind, mental health, fabulous relationships, serenity. For me, that's wealth, that's health, that's happiness. You could put me under a bridge and I'd make that the finest bridge home you'd ever see. because wherever you go, whatever you carry with you, it's out. So it really doesn't matter. People, you know, I was born very, very poor. I grew up in a Habitat for Humanity house. I've had 60 cents in my bank account. I worked my way through college. I know what it feels like to struggle and not have a car and rely on people to drive you. But gosh, even though I didn't have a lot of money, I had a lot of wealth. I had a lot of love. And that's a function of what you have in your heart. So you have to give it. And people will respond to that, the right people. So if you don't have love and you have anger and you have violence, you'll have people respond to that too. You know, so be careful what you're giving out, because you're going to get it back.
True enough. And in my in my meditation, because I've always been one of these people that, you know, really wanted to maximize the contribution I could make in the world. And in my meditation, I keep getting, and I've gotten over decades, that the best thing that I can do for anybody else is to work on myself. And every year I understand more and more about the more that I work on myself, the more I have to offer other people. But it's the cause is me working on me and to be more authentic and accepting of the big I, as you put it, that I am. And that enables me to have more to offer other people. And it's the doing that seems to be the cause, and then the rest of it is just an effect.
Absolutely. It's like Shakespeare said, assume a virtue if you have it not, you know, and there's the kaleidoscope of virtues, I call them moods, that you can have where you dwell in this state of love and beauty and vitality. And, you know, I've met some incredible people who just exude it, and, you know, and I mean, I remember I was in a Charles de Gaulle and airport with my daughter, and she was a baby at that time. She was about 11 months old, and there was this little boy who came up and started playing peekaboo with her and playing, and I didn't know where the little boy's mama was. So I look around, and all of a sudden a woman walks up to me, and she was so beautiful and refined and graceful and beautiful skin. And I said, okay, what's your son's name? And she says, oh, his name's Marcel. I said, okay. And our kids are playing together. And then she leaves. And then I go to Geneva airport, and I said, look at that woman. That woman was very nice. She's very graceful. My husband says, oh, that's Marion Cotillard, one of France's most famous actresses, you know, Dior, whatever. And she emanated grace. She emanated beauty. She did. And I thought, wow, what an incredible example of that, because we just interacted on a personal human level. There was nothing, you know, no pretense or anything. So she's just being herself with her son, and I was being myself with my daughter, and there she was. And so I do feel that if you want a virtue, if you want success, you have to emanate it. You have to assume it. It's almost like the fruit. You have to eat that fruit. You have to taste it. And then you begin to, it's like the concept of the body. Your body is the physical emanation of everything you eat. Isn't that wild? That's wild, that whatever we assimilate, it literally becomes our skin and our hair and our teeth and all these things. So it's important to, but that's the same concept with our soul, our individual souls, that we have to nourish ourselves with spiritual fruit. Contemplating and meditating on vitality and health and love and joy, peace and friendliness, and then allow that to what we consume and allow it to be expressed through us. And yeah, sometimes we realize we catch ourselves and I'm like, I'm exasperated or I'm frustrated or I'm pissed off or whatever. And it's like, be careful with that. Because if you don't like it, and I say in engineering your mood, if you find yourself in an undesirable mood or state, say, what's the opposite of this? What's the opposite of frustrated? I always say opposite of frustrated is progress. You're making progress. So then you go, okay, progress, and you kind of consuming that. What does progress feel like? Well, things are working out and people are helping me and things are flowing and I don't have to force anything. Everything's working itself out. Then you begin to consume that fruit and you start to feel it. So that's that concept of spiritual fruit. It's the fruit of your mood. And then you begin to feel it and then you experience it. So you can do something. The greatest myth that people have is that they feel like they can't do something about the way they feel. Yes, you can. Of course you can do something about the way you feel. If you're sick, you got mental illness, you got depression, watch what kind of spiritual fruit you're consuming and allow yourself to dwell on beautiful things, on lovely things and good report, as the Bible says. So that's how I would say is start watching what you're consuming. The body is the physical example of what you consume becomes what you look, but also your mind, your mental habits are what you're consuming, those virtues. So if you don't have it, if you don't have patience, meditate on that, chew on that fruit for a little bit and see how it feels.
Oh my. I'm just kind of here basking in all of it, you
Yeah,
know.
come on, that's good.
Well, you're on a roll. Is there anything else you want to share before we move along?
I don't know. I mean, you tell me. I mean, what were you going through right before you found me? What were you chewing on before you found my profile? And maybe that had led you to me.
Well, I was looking for people that I could connect with, that I would find uplifting to be around. And so one of the things that I enjoy, and the reason I love doing these podcasts is that, you know, I get to meet people and it brings up stuff in me and we share and I learn and I grow and I discover parts of me that I can accept and enjoy, or accept and choose not to act on if I don't want to, you know, but that it gives me so often in these conversations, I have an experience of opening up to more
Mm.
and accepting more. And I just find that so uplifting and enriching. I go like, well, I want to do more of it. So there was an email from Jessica that said, if you want suggestions about people that might want to be on your podcast, let me know. And so I did, and you were on the list.
Yay, thank you.
Well, that's kind of how that all came about. And I just and I've had such great experiences uh you know, doing these podcasts and listening and providing an opportunity for people to express themselves, and then coming back with, you know, what that stimulated in me,
Yeah,
all of that. So
yeah.
so yeah, that's kind of what was behind me reaching out to you to do this.
Yay, I love that. I always think it's interesting how we always get exactly what we want. We just don't realize it.
Yeah.
And I think that we lose track of the things that we ask for, whether unconsciously or subconsciously. I think that we lose track of that and we go, why am I getting this? And then I think if I only could add something, is just be more of a conscious creator. Lists are great. I wrote about that in the It Pays to Be a Job Search and Career Change workbook. But it's more than that. It's about achieving any goal that you have. But the greatest starting place for anybody who's struggling is their job and their career, because it's about making ends meet and feeling purposeful, feeling having value and connected to this world. Because if we don't feel purposeful and we don't feel like we have a value, then we feel like we're separate from the world. And I think like that's the greatest cause of like disease and mental health, is a sense of separation. I write about that in Engineering Your Mood. And what we really want to feel in life is oneness with our community, oneness with our family, oneness with this world, and to be a part of the economy. And so as a career coach, it was a great way to help people in a constructive and simple step-by-step way of breaking down their dreams and what they want. And I always tell people as a coach, tell me what you want. Don't, I mean, people all day, every day will tell you what they don't want. I don't have any work. I'm stressed. Why are you telling me that? Tell me what you want. If you tell me what you want, I can close my eyes and imagine you having it. You'll have it. I'm a manifested machine.
Well,
And so,
then manifest meetings with me and world leaders so that I can help them accept their wholeness and have it reflected in their leadership. Manifest that.
okay. Yay, I love it. Yeah, why not? Why not? That's what I'm saying. It's like we talk ourselves out of success. And some people are terrified of success. The fear of success is real. And so it's safe to be successful. You talk about world leaders. If you talk about, oh, it doesn't feel safe. Yeah, of course. With world leaders, a lot of those people have, you know, money on their heads. You know what I mean? Like, and I've coached people who coach, highest leadership in America, military, economy. I have. I've coached those people who advise those people. And it's all spiritual, it's all psychological. And so if you know what you want, and if you really are very specific, and I say, write it down, be conscious of what your heart desires, and start to be imaginative and creative, and be confident that, believing really is simply the assumption that life will produce the desired result. That's it. You want to know the opposite of that? That's being afraid. The assumption that life will produce the undesired result. Oh boy, do we swing between that. Believing and afraid. So I say to you, know what you really want and make the assumption that life will produce that result for you. That no, you don't have to work until you're dead and your fingers bleed. Of course, you have to allow yourself to be moved by it and to participate in it and to let it move through you as a vessel of that dream, but not the futile arrangement of external things. It's not going to work that way. So if you're in this alignment with your dream, and if you believe and assume that this is the reality, that this is life, this is the reality, this is the truth, I am the giver of everything that I experience, not somebody else. I am the decision maker, not somebody else. I am the approval person, not somebody else. When you realize that you are all these things, and that all you have to do is exercise that, and again, it takes years of cultivation. I'm not saying that this is just as simple as hearing what I'm saying. Maybe, hopefully, maybe magically, but once you start to work on yourself and develop your virtues and your awareness of your true concept of the self, which is I talk about in Engineering Your Mood, and to develop your true identity, you will do according to your identity. If you are formless, shapeless awareness, life-giving force, and that whatever you assume is true literally becomes true. It literally, you manifest it. That's where you start to realize, oh, what am I assuming is true about life and myself and others? People are unkind. Look at all those unkind people in the world. People don't help me. Oh, look at all those unhelpful people. You better watch what you assume is true, because whatever you assume is true, good, bad, and indifferent, that is what you create. And that's the simplest thing I can say. Question what you assume is true, what you believe. And if you can question it, and if you can correct it and say, no, that's not true, that you can be tattooed and be a millionaire. You can be a child like me. My mother was a child sex worker. And I grew up in working poverty, that I can have success and I can have people who turn to me for advice. You have to change your concept of yourself. I don't live as that little girl. I'm not her. I don't have the same psychological arrangement. That means you have to shed that mind and that identity and assume a new mind and a new identity. And that's the work. That is always the work. And if you know how to do it time and time again, it becomes easier and easier to achieve all your goals and your dreams. So self-improvement is always the job. That's the work. That's the mission.
Well, this has been great for me because so much of what you've said is just affirmation, and it's just wonderful to me to experience you putting it into practice, and it's just, I don't know, validating in some ways,
Yay.
and it's like, I'm glad to hear someone else say this too.
Yeah. I think that's the kind of thing that like begets like. You attract to those people who are at your psychological level, who are verifying for you. Oh, you see what I see? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Not crazy.
yeah, yeah. Well, this has really been wonderful. And so if people want to contact you, it's through your website, or what's the best way?
Yes, I'm on Instagram, so if you want to engage that way with me, it's at Leslie Inc. INCK, LESLIEINCK. And then if you want to learn more about me, you can go to leslieinc.org. Or my author website is lesliejuvinacker.com. LESLIEJUVINACKER.com. And if you are interested in any of my reading material, it is on audiobook on Google Play Books. It is on Kindle. It is on print. So go to Amazon and purchase my books. And yeah, learn. The more you learn, the more you earn. And that's how I say, just learn and apply and take the chance and ask questions, and connect with me on Instagram or ask me to interview. Yeah, I love talking about this stuff because you can never go wrong by talking about self-improvement, ever. Never. I've never seen somebody go, I talked about self-improvement and I lost all my money. I didn't hear that. You know what I mean? Seriously, the more you learn, the more you earn. But guess what? There's a lot of people who've hired me, boy, oh boy, narcissistic people and stuff like that. You can't use people to succeed. It just doesn't work. So, and I say that for some reason, it's like, you have to always come with the spirit of service. How can I help you? How can I help you grow? Because when you do, you grow, you help yourself. And that's the way it should be. Fortunately, I think that's the law of the universe, is that you help and you serve, you help yourself, you serve yourself. And people don't exist to serve you in that sense of like controlling people. We're here to be one. We're here to reunify consciously with each other. We're here to love each other. We're here to be in purpose and harmony with each other. And that's our goal as humanity, is that sense of oneness. And I truly, truly believe that. And all the great teachers talk about that. And once you begin to viscerally feel oneness, I don't think that you ever want to leave that state of oneness. So just don't be self-centered and self-oriented. Be oriented to the one, to the whole, to all of us, and love, and let love flow through you. And that is the healthiest, wealthiest, joyful, successful place to be.
True enough. Well, that's wonderful. And I think that's a great place. That's a good thing to leave everybody with.
Yay!
That's what we're going to do. And thank you for sharing your spirit with all of us. And you are just inspiring. So
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Scott.
all right. So happy trails. And
Yes.
we'll let me see. We'll end this here. Or not. Hang on. Get my glasses on. I can figure out how to do this, I hope.